Let me start with a question that's really going to be more of a question I'll follow up with later, but I want to be sure we cover this. You and I have talked about this before, Secretary, the idea that people don't get the information they need early enough to decide what kind of job is out there, what their personal sense of job satisfaction would be, and what those jobs pay. A few years ago, I went with one of the Secretaries of Labor to the Carpenters Training Facility in St. Louis. And as we visited individually with people at the end of that visit, they were all in their late 20s. They all had a similar story, and it was sort of that lost decade of not knowing what they wanted to do or not having information about the importance of benefits, the importance of job satisfaction. And we've looked at that as sort of a lost decade that we'd like to avoid. It's hard to recover, frankly, from that lost decade. You asked for $10 million to continue to pursue that in your budget. The Secretary of Education didn't ask for the $10 million education had last year. We'd put $10 million in both budgets. At some point when you've had time to think about this more, I'm going to ask you, and I'll be asking the Secretary, what the two of you are doing to try to close that gap between getting the information you need. If you want to talk about the importance of knowing what jobs are out there sooner rather than later, let me let you do that for a moment.
No, thank you, Ranking Member. And to be quite honest with you, I want to add another component to that, Secretary of Commerce. So the Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, the Secretary of Education, Secretary Cardona, and myself have had conversations. And when you think about the jobs of the future, the three of our departments catch employers and educational opportunities to prepare people for the future. So what we're doing is we're working collectively together to make the investments. Gina Raimondo's working with the business community as well as I am to find out where the gaps are, where they need employees now and in the future, working with education on how do we create those programs in our primary schools, in our high schools, how do we create those opportunities in community college moving forward. And the Department of Labor is offering, obviously has the workforce development grants and the workforce grants to be able to fund those jobs. So it really has to be real intentional work that we're doing here to make sure that this money that we're asking for today and the money through the rescue plan and potentially through the CARES economy plan, that this investment is preparing workers for the future. You just said it yourself. I mean, when you think back and look at the history of this country, and you look at the investments that have made in the 50s and 60s and 70s, lots of schools around America had voc tech schools, and they were doing voc tech training, and young people that were going to those programs were going into the trades. They would become an electrician, plumber, carpenter, laborer, mechanic, what have you. Many of those programs are very different today. And I think we're at a moment in time coming out of a pandemic, or getting through a pandemic, I should say, we're not out of it yet, that we have an opportunity right now to retrain and reskill workers, young people, as well as some older workers as well, into those careers. But it has to be a coordinated effort. It has to be the secretaries, the Commerce, Labor, and Education, and it has to be Democrats and Republicans, quite honestly.
Right. All right. I'm going to run out of time here. I agree with that, but the component I want to be sure we continue to add is like those VOTEC programs. I was at a great new facility in Buffalo, Missouri the other day that they're building, and being focused again. People need to know sooner rather than later what jobs are out there, what those jobs pay. A lot of jobs that have that kind of training are actually produce greater satisfaction and more income than jobs that take that you have a college degree for, and sharing all that information early is important. One way to create an early sense of what you want to do is apprenticeships. Missouri, where you'll be tomorrow, is ranked second in the United States in apprenticeships. We're working toward a goal in our state of having 20,000 active apprenticeships by 2025. The one thing left out of that, it appears to be the non-traditional industries and what we can do to develop apprenticeships outside of the well-run trade union programs and other programs for things, for instance, like healthcare, cybersecurity, even finance. What can we be doing to think about how we expand that apprenticeship opportunity to new fields?
Well, what I've been doing and what we're going to continue to do is talk to companies, tech companies as well. We have opportunities in tech and biotech and high tech and even pharmaceuticals. So having conversations with those industries on how do we create pathways into those industries would be important. Those are good paying jobs, and they're looking for people. And quite honestly, we have a huge opportunity right now in this country to really think about those apprenticeships and how do we create more apprenticeships. And the beauty is, I know my time is over, the beauty is the apprenticeships, you're paying while you're learning. And that's the difference between workforce development, job training. You're actually getting paid in an apprenticeship while you're learning on the job. Right. And that allows a person that might be unemployed or underemployed right now to get on-job experience, real-life experience moving forward.
Thank you, Secretary. I'll have some more questions also later, Chairman, and thank you for the time.